CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
Greg Brotherton will be back in court for sentencing in 2 weeks after pleading guilty to manslaughter in the beating death of Rick Green. Green was punched outside the Country Rose pub in Colwood in October, trying to intervene in a dispute between Brotherton and his girlfriend. Crown Counsel had asked for a pre-sentence report before sentencing. The preparation of that would have pushed the sentencing into next year, but the Supreme Court judge in the case rejected the request. Brotherton's sentencing instead is scheduled for December 17th and 18th. Statistics Canada is reporting a grim new trend, an increase in the number of murders in this country. Canada's homicide rate was up 7% in 2011 with 598 murders. Alberta responsible for most of that increase. That province saw 32 more homicides in 2011 than the year before. Ontario was at the other end of the spectrum, hitting the lowest point since 1966. The method of murder in this country is changing. The overall rate of gun deaths has dropped to its lowest level in 50 years. Stabbings accounted for virtually the entire increase last year. The Saanich Police Department is joining forces with the Vancouver Island Regional Homicide Unit. Word of that today. The department will add 3 senior officers and a support person to the team, which now includes 18 police officers. 6 are from the Victoria Police Department. The other 12 are RCMP officers from across the island. Saanich says the move will not have an impact on any of its ongoing investigations and will not compromise overall operations.
We do intend to staff this properly. We are going to be, sending obviously officers that have the competencies required to participate in these high-end, significant investigations, but we are also going to backfill.
The Oak Bay Police Department is included in the team because Saanich already covers major crime investigations for that municipality. Saanich estimates the annual cost to join the unit will be about $400,000. A 51-year-old Victoria man suffered life-threatening injuries this morning after he was hit by a pickup truck as he crossed Fort Street. It happened at about 8 o'clock this morning. The man was crossing Fort near Stanley Avenue and was in a marked crosswalk at the time. That stretch of road was closed for hours while crash team investigators were at the scene. Victoria has seen a rash of pedestrians hit in recent weeks. Last Thursday, a 75-year-old woman suffered serious head injuries and later died in the hospital after she was struck at Douglas and Discovery downtown.
Well, I don't want to say it's happening on a daily basis, but it is way too often for us to be comfortable with. And again, we still don't know exactly who was where and what was going on, but clearly any time that vehicles and pedestrians meet, somebody is going to suffer, and it's usually the pedestrian.
Victoria Police are still working to determine the cause of the crash this morning. Well, things turned from fun to serious business at a Saanich park this weekend after a small dog was attacked by a pair of Rottweilers. The dog's owner says it was at about 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon when he was walking their Dachshund and Great Dane through Lambert Park when 2 Rottweilers nearby spotted them and ran for them. He says his wife was trying to hold back their 150-pound Great Dane while the 2 other large dogs trapped the small dog.
She remembers then him sitting at her feet. Things are still developing. The Rotties are circling. The other one comes back in at Milo, and he screams. At that time, Ruby, or Dane, knocks my wife over and chased that Rottie away. That ended the attack.
The small dog, Milo, suffered injuries including a punctured stomach and artery, and his owners are now facing a $3,200 veterinary bill. Saanich Police and the CRD Pound are working together to try to find the owner of the Rottweilers. He's described as 5'10" to 6 feet in height, about 50 years old, possibly with an Indo-Canadian background and a thick British accent. He also had a medium build and was with a 10-year-old boy at the time of the attack. If you have any information, you're asked to contact Saanich Police. Their non-emergency line is on your screen. Victoria Police are hoping that you can help reunite 2 families with their missing photos. Police found the photos on SD cards that were recovered during stolen property searches. They include this shot from Disneyland, a family vacation, wedding moments as well. Vic PD is hoping to get those memories back to the rightful owners. If you recognize the people in these photos, or if these are yours, you're asked to email Victoria Police at vi5353@vicpd.ca. Well, December 1st was supposed to be the start of mandatory flu vaccinations for healthcare workers in BC, but after pressure from unions, the government is scaling that program back. Several unions representing thousands of healthcare workers argued that employees should have a choice on whether to be vaccinated or not. The Health Ministry says it's now trying a softer approach for the first year of the program, encouraging employees to get vaccinated, but not requiring it. The policy originally said that all healthcare workers must get a flu shot or wear a mask while at work. If they didn't, they'd run the risk of losing their jobs. 2 workers were rushed to the hospital in Victoria today after falling from a stage inside the Save On Foods Memorial Centre. It happened this afternoon. No word on the severity of their injuries, but the 2 stagehands were wheeled out in gurneys to waiting ambulances. Arena management is not commenting on the fall and won't confirm if it was a local or road crew involved in the accident. Those stagehands were working on the load-in for Journey and Loverboy. And that rock show kicks off at 7 tonight. So live and let die. The Vancouver Fire Department is investigating the use of explosives and pyrotechnics at the recent Paul McCartney concert at BC Place. They're being used on the tour during the performance of Live and Let Die, and during the Vancouver show, it was obvious that something was wrong. They were hitting the ceiling. Many concertgoers have posted video on YouTube showing the explosives bouncing off the inner lining of BC Place's new roof. It's being described as human error, although it is unlikely that the flame-resistant material would have caught fire. But the potential for panic has the Vancouver Fire Department concerned.
People should be able to get out effectively, but the panic starts, and as people run to the exit, then they stumble, they fall, they might be impaired by alcohol, and that's where we see people dying.
The Vancouver Fire Department says it's toughening its rules for pyrotechnicians at concerts, showing them a pre-measured grid of the various heights inside. Firefighters will also supervise pre-testing of all pyro effects before showtime. BC Place says it's still assessing any damage and says there's some scorching. It's not clear yet if the marks will wash off or if those panels will need to be replaced. In any event, McCartney's production team would pay for any costs. And here's one to keep in mind. If you filled up at a Shell station recently and you used the pay at the pump feature, as most do now, you may want to check your bank statement. Shell Canada says it is experiencing problems at its pumps. Here's what's happening. If you select a fill-up, your debit card is initially authorized for a preset amount. But instead of paying for the amount of gas you actually put in your tank, you may have been digged for the entire preset total. It's happening at Shell pumps across the country. No word yet on whether customers on Vancouver Island are affected. In a statement to CTV News, Shell Canada says it has taken immediate steps to try to solve the problem, and it's working with the payment processor to ensure that any payment discrepancies are rectified as soon as possible. It apologizes for the technical error. A developing agricultural story in Saanich tonight. CTV News has learned that Rob Gailey is holding a news conference tomorrow at which he's expected to announce he is closing some of his farming operations. Gailey tells CTV News he's being forced to shut down his Hastings and Interurban Valley farms and may close his farmland in the Wilkinson Valley. Gailey says deer and geese have been ravaging his land and his nurseries, devastating his entire operation, and he says he simply can't keep up with the damage. He says, however, that the family will continue to operate the Gailey farm in the Blenkinsop Valley. He estimates that he's lost more than $100,000 to geese alone over the last few years. People in Tofino will head to the polls in the new year to replace outgoing Mayor Perry Schmunk. Schmunk steps down January 1st. He has accepted a new job that takes him to Vancouver frequently, and he says he simply can't juggle both roles effectively. The by-election in Tofino has been set for January 26th. Nomination papers are available now at the district office. Well, some encouraging news for Vancouver Island and the BC coastline tonight. The province says the volume of debris drifting across the Pacific from last year's tsunami in Japan will not be as great as expected. Japanese officials believe that much of the material that's coming has already reached the west coast. Everything from styrofoam and fishing buoys to a Harley-Davidson motorcycle has washed up in BC in the months since the quake and tsunami. The province had previously estimated nearly 1.5 million tons of debris would reach the BC shore. Well, Vancouver Island University is shining bright this holiday season after raising $115,000 at its annual Festival of Trees. It's the 18th year for the two-week fundraiser in Nanaimo, which attracted more than 3,000 people this year. The money raised at VIU goes to student scholarships and improvements to the campus. It's a record year for the fundraiser. It raised $85,000 last year.